it's upon the Fury, Inferbras, for it's upon the Fury. Wake up einen Sauriköter, das war's der Taufe, Balthasar. Inferbras, for it's upon the Fury, Inferbras, for it's upon the Fury. It's upon the Fury, Inferbras, for it's upon the Fury. Wake up einen Sauriköter, das war's der Taufe, Balthasar. Inferbras, for it's upon the Fury, Inferbras, for it's upon the Fury. It's upon the Fury, Inferbras, for it's upon the Fury, Inferbras, for it's upon the Fury, Inferbras.
Hey, we're live. Welcome, lads. It's been a while. It's been a long, long while. For those who've been watching the other two, we've only done two of these Blender tutorial lessons. And yeah, they have been what I call basic level. Let me just switch to desktop view now. Let's see here. I have nothing to hide. And let's see, let me bring this up. And I had prepared all this shit to get through. Now the life expectancy in the Blender minds is too long and not long enough. Yeah. Well, I started with the basic level, but they were all pretty quick things to get through. Yeah, it is very clean because it's my second monitor actually. So if you want to see the other one, I'll just show you very quick since it's like this. It's mostly Toho icon, so I can choose the game I want quickly. But I only play on Sundays anyway. All right. I was saying, we went through all of these. And we got up to here, compiling. We had finished the spot, which was here, my team 2027 Spring Stakes spot. That's a little old now. Let's make it for summer. It's 2027, no, not yet. And yeah, we're still in the basic level, but I call this one beginner level because we're getting into that before we get to finish. So we only finish wrapping this up first and then get into these head models today. I will have to look for something today. Some model. That's a good point. I have no idea what to use as an example. So if you guys have a model you want me to try convert for you, now is a good chance for that. Otherwise I just grab whatever. It's the same in the end. So anyway, after preparing the export folder, we now have to compile it. Now, how do we compile it? Well, of course, we copy every single file into a different folder for paste. No, that's wrong, fortunately. There's this faggot who made a certain thing called the compiler, something like 10 years ago. Fuck. And let's see, let me grab a clean one. It doesn't go here, it goes here. And then once you got it, you have to copy or move your hotspot into the hotspot to add folder. And that's it. You can just run it. Now there are 4 scripts here, but these 3 here are just different pieces of the whole bunch. You can just run 0 and it will just do 1, 2, and 3 in sequence. So you run it and then it's here. Just checking for updates. You're running the latest version. When you run it for the first time, it says here's a wizard. The compiler is currently set to compile for PES 25. I would say that's fine. But if you were compiling for something else, maybe for an invitational, well, you can switch it here, for example, typing 17 and pressing enter. Or if it's fine, you can either type 15 or just press enter. Okay, version kept. Now it says the current main PES folder location is, and is the default to which most people install it. No sensor, right and good. I didn't know we had that. I have forgot we had that as an emote. Magical Realm, nice. There is no Tohominati connection is fake, indeed. Reminder that boss head players is peak performance. Yeah, it is very aerodynamic. But this location does not exist. Yeah, because I installed my PES to this folder here, data, programs, and here it is. So we got it here, and this is the location I need to change it to. But for you, it might be fine if you have installed it to the default location. I actually do not recommend installing it to the default location because this is in program files or however your Windows calls it in your language. And this is a system folder. And every time you have to move to copy a CPK with something you compile to that folder here, which is in a system folder, the compiler will be forced to ask you for admin permissions. So you will get the window which goes boop boop, and you have to click yes, and there it goes. But if you install it or even just move it, because PES is not a program which you really need to install. It doesn't save anything to the Windows registry. So you just can install it wherever you want. You can move it, for example, here to the desktop. You can run it from there and it will work. You can then copy it to an external hard disk drive, copy it to another PC without installing it, run it, even from the hard drive itself, and it will just work. It just works. I have my PES in a desktop subfolder, yeah, for example, that. So it comes as a matter of course that most people who know about that will not have it installed here. So please set the correct path to the main PES folder in the settings file and try again. This time here, I do not force you to type it here. So you can press a key and it will open the settings file. Come on, there we go. It opened on the other monitor. There it is. So this is the settings file, which I hope is not too complicated for regular people to read, but it's just a setting, description, default, and this is the variable name and the value. Never change these ones. Anyway, down here is the PES folder path. It used to be the PES download folder path, but then I had to change it because nowadays the compiler can open PES automatically after compiling. That's said. Here's a little trick. If you keep these two, which are called a magic number, so for example, if I paste this, what the fuck, it didn't copy. Okay. You paste it here and then change 15 with magic number. Whenever you compile, it will move the CPK generated to a folder that's with this replaced with the PES version. So that's a neat trick That means if you keep all your PESs in the same folder, every time you change the version here, you have to change nothing else. You don't need to change it there and then here. It used to be a slight annoyance for people working with different versions. Okay, after that, you just save and that's it. Let's keep this one here, might come in handy. I don't need this one. Let's move this one away. Okay. So that's it. Now we can compile, surely. Okay, right. Here's an error you might see if you're not making something for the FOSS-EC. If you're making something for an invitation, of course. Unusable team name, my team, because it's called my team. We even made a note with my team, calling it my team. Your team isn't real, yeah. It's not even a fake team. This team name was not found on the team list file. What the fuck is that? Well, the thing is, and some people still don't know that after like maybe 8 years it's been like this. The thing is that every example here, every team ID in your hotspot, be it 702 or whatever, even SSS, is ignored by the compiler. Even the ones here. And what the fuck does the compiler use? It uses this teams list, where all the teams must be listed. So I'm gonna add here, for example, my team. And that's how it knows which ID is used by each team. This might sound like a slight annoyance if I tell you like this, but it's actually great, because it means that if your team switches ID because it's playing on another cup, or you're in the FOSS-EC and a new team's joined and there are no more there are no backup slots left because of Hero making 10 more balls, for example. And you don't have to change all the IDs in your spot. You can keep it like that every time, all the time, and it will just work. So yeah, you just keep it here. What about your team? Your team is a shit. Save, or, well, let's assume we didn't do that because we're doing things the easy way now. That was the hard way, which isn't that hard, but it's still harder than it could be. The compiler says, this team name was not found, but instead of opening the list for you and forcing you to write your name, your team's name on it, it says, enter the team ID for this team, or press enter to skip the spot if you don't know the team ID, but you should know it. I don't know it. It was 851, okay. If you happen to know it, you can just type it here and it says it's already in use by invitational 1. You want to override it. Enter to confirm, not to try again. Okay, now what it did was switch it here. So you don't have to scroll down all the way. BFPS coming soon, trust. Be bold and be gun. All right, let me check the CDG breathing tutorial starting now on the VGS. After that, it says, now I'm processing this spot. The ID I found for it was 851. First, because it's first extracting and checking the spot. So it extracts it. Well, it doesn't really need to extract it because it's not a 7-zip or a zip, but sometimes it happens. And then checks the spot. And then it says prepare the patch folders. The patch folder is the one structured in such a way that PES will take it. After that, it says beans updating is enabled. What the fuck is that? It's a setting that kept by default enabled. Here, beans updating, and this is a long description, which I won't read this. It's simply about the fact that PES uses a series of bin files to understand how many kits each team has, and to understand the colors they use when they win a cup. Not very useful. And on PES 18 and following, the FOTS versions, there's also another file which keeps a copy of every kit config in every team. So if you don't update it, it will just use the old settings for your team. So and you don't need that. You don't want that because the settings usually have the FPC settings, the things for hiding your players and using FVMs. We'll get to that later. Also, I forgot to say this, but reminder, if you haven't watched the other two tutorials, you have to watch them, because I will assume you have watched them, and I will not say the very basics of Blender every single time. So what's a vertex, what's a face? If you don't know, go watch those and then come back. That said, beans updating is enabled. So first it looks for the beans in your downloads folder, and then it adds your team's data. It says I have 2 colors, I got 2 kits, done. And then it packs the face folders one by one. Moves the kit configs, moves the kit textures, moves the other stuff, which is the logo and the portraits. Patch contents folder prepared, and then it packs the CPK, which by default is called, I should keep this open, fuck. It's called FOSSCC90 test. We'll see why. You don't need to change it unless you really know what you're doing. Patch has been created, and since move CPK mode is enabled, and it is by default, it moves the CPK to the download folder of PES, which is here, PES 15 download. This one has a lot of CPKs. And then done, and then, well, sometimes, usually, it will say warning, potential issues were found. Please check the issues log file for more details. Well, you're not forced to check that, well, and then press any key to exit, so that's it. So here, let's see. Okay. I should actually have it delete this one, maybe in a future version, because it kept logged the error about an unusual team name being found. So in this case, check log name, you're fucked. Well, the log used to say in the non-read version of the compiler, my team's manager needs to be memed on. But after a while I say, man, it's getting bored to see all that needs to be meme on all the time. So I just took it off. But they still need to be meme on. Anyway, move CPKs takes care of taking the CPK created that usually comes here, purchase output. And then when you have it enabled, it says these CPKs were moved to the download folder, which is here. And it went here, 90 test, and we see that it's 18 megabyte instead of the usual 6 or 7 kilobyte CPKs, which are just empty. Whenever you see 6 or 7, it's empty. And yeah, so why I'm gonna ban you from here. I knew someone would say that. Not really. Stop it. Now, why do we compile to 90 test? Because the work the download folder works is that PES says when you open PES, is there a download folder? Well, there is. So let's check inside. What should I check inside here? It doesn't look at the CPKs. It doesn't. It checks this, the DP file list bin. That's a binary file, but it's pretty readable. Let's open HST. I got it matrix styled. And you can see that the CPK names are listed here. There's an entry which was like, I think 45? No. 42? No, 46. No, 48. There we go. It's 48 characters per entry, 48 bytes actually per entry. And this file simply tells PES what CPKs it needs to load and in what order. So first load this one, then load this one, then blah, 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 blah. So if you make a CPK with a different name from any that are of the ones listed here, PES will simply not care about it. It will skip it. On the other hand, if you delete a CPK here, for example, you say, I don't want this one anymore, I have tested my shit, and you try running PES, you will get this. Let's see if it opens here. Perfect. Konami. You will get default PES. And then it will say system data, unable to load the system data, which is the edit file, the save file, because data is from a different version. So load new contents, which is the TLC, to update the data. Okay, I don't care. Let's close this one. So never delete any files from here. Let's undo. Now, why does PES say it doesn't match? Because one of the files inside this first CPK tests the version, and we use something called diff, a custom version for CC themed, something like that. And that version is also written in the edit file. So when you skip the download folder, you get default PES, and you cannot even load the edit file. Another interesting thing about this is that the order in which the CPKs are listed here, which by default and always, because you should never edit this file either, because this is a standard for CC file which should never be edited unless you absolutely know what you're doing and then revert it immediately. Otherwise you get fucked. The order here is the same. Here is alphabetical order, of course. And the order here states in which order the files should be loaded. And why is that important? Because if you have a face folder here for a certain player, and then you have a different folder here for the same player, let's say folder A, folder B, which one will win? The one loaded first or the one loaded second? The one loaded second will win. Every file inside a CPK, which is also located in the same folder in another previous CPK, will overwrite the previous one. And that's why we compiled to FOSS-CC 90 test, because it's the last one of the whole bunch. So everything you make, you're sure will come up, will show up. Now let me have a little bit of water. Also sorry. This is a bit silent. Let me put on some music. Not this. This. Sorry. Again. It's a little. Okay. Should be too loud. No, it's a little loud. I keep fucking up the thing here. There we go. That should be fine. And so I was saying, yeah, that's everything about the downloads folder. Yeah, it should be fine. If the volume is too loud or too quiet, let me know. It's a bit hard to figure out just by looking at the gauges on OBS. Anyway, that said. Yeah, one last thing about CPKs is that they're simply what's a CPK? It's a package folder, let's say. Its literal name is crepact file, crepact. And you can open it with this program I use, which is called Noesis. The fuck? How did it show up? It's even stuck. Great. Let's try again. Crash for the first time ever. Okay, Let me try again. Okay, this time it's like the fact I'm opening it on a second window that's crashing it. Oh well. Anyway, there are a few tools to open them, but they're just like a zip, pretty much, and they have folders inside. Actually, let me just show you what another way to see what's inside. If you run one, which does this, one simply grabs your spot and organizes it into restricted teams. You get faces, key configs, blah blah blah. This is like an spot, but this contains the faces from all the spots you compiled and stuff like that. And then I do extract it to contents, and then it packs the stuff. Now we got patches contents, and here you got a single CPK folder, and this is the contents. These are the contents of the CPK here, 90 test. So you get a common folder with the best structure, which is kinda annoying. You have to enter a few folders, and then every face folder gets compiled to a different CPK, and inside has a whole structure. It used to be a pain in the past, preparing all this stuff. Anyway, that's the content of a CPK. Is there a reason for the skips in the numbers of specify names of the CPK files? Oh yeah, the reason is that if in the future we need to, for example, insert a new CPK which gets loaded between 2 and 4, we have space. So the reason is reserving spaces for future usage. Examples here, Stadium 012 is 012 because you wouldn't put anything between these two. But here between swipe and game tips, there's a lot of space and stuff like that. Yeah, Noesis can open them directly, and the best thing about that is that you can even associate it to the CPK extension, so you can just double click and extract it very quickly without opening the tool separately first. Let me check the chat in case I missed something. Okay, never mind. Like how midcap, if we need to change or update a Stadium. Yeah. Especially these ones. For example, these two are what we call Stadium midcaps. I thought we had 3. Wait. And you see the midcaps are 79, so we can just make one for every day. Even every day of a World Cup. World Cup has 15 days, damn. Yeah. And replace them if we need, without packing everything into a single midcap, which can make it go up to a gigabyte, for example. Alright, that's it. Let me close this. Let me keep this aside. Now, we have compiled our export. After that long excursus, we can now open PES and check our results. The greatest game ever read. Yeah. So we're going to edit mode. Now, I assume most of you have opened PES at least once. I came here immediately assuming that, but I'll show you where it is actually now. So when you open PES 15 or even 16 and you see this huge kerning in front of you, giving you good advice, you don't usually get edit here, you get one game mode, so you have to press left to go to extras, opening PES imply, And then you got the edit menu, which is where aesthetics people do most of the stuff. And players, edit player. So actually, we compiled it into invitational teams, and there it is. We had the A logo, and these are the two. Ah, there we go. We had done 1 and 3, I think. Sorry, here. One and 3 here. The Yan-Yo sprite. I remember now. And did it get stuck? Ah, no, there we go. And Gondola. 2 car heads. Waiting for the decision of PES to start opening PES again. Right, and they got the kits we made and everything. What else did we do? Yeah, just the logo and the common, but we're not using that for anything. So yeah, that's all. So that was the absolutely basic level. So yeah, the explanation I did here about the CPKs and all the stuff is not something you need to keep in mind. Just know that you put the export here, run this. If it wasn't in the teams list, it will ask you for the ID. You just type it, it's done, and then you just run PES. Version is used, PES system will run in the background. Yeah, see? Yeah. Oh, no, never mind. This one does say Pro Evolution Soccer 2015 is already running. But that's a lie. The dark truth is this is also 16. Alright, so next up, beginner level. Truly. Head models. I have not seen a request for a face folder on chat. So let me just browse for whatever. Maybe grab something from the teams I've held in the past. I might find something interesting. So teams guest. Oh, let's see. CK. CK is always a nice draw. Gordon Ramsay. I need to make a new face. No. Let's actually... something from FCO. Let's go. Let's go with the Fate Unlimited Code models, which are pretty simple. But I don't think they're here. I need to check one. There we go. It's Gilgamesh. AO. So copy this and let's open Blender from the one we have here. This is the Blender we unpacked last time. Okay. When I saw that title bar being very tiny, I said, fuck, now we get everything tiny, but now it's fine, Our heads are what most players are using, right? There's a 2D card with transparency. Well, that's their 2D body too, that's slightly advanced. Yeah, it is a bit more wacky. But I think they do have just car head 2D cards for the heads and the body is shared. 279.8. Again, I give him my reasons. If you want to talk about this, talk to me after the stream, not now. Alright, that said. This one here is a die model or OBJ. These are two of the most common formats. Yeah, cut heads are something we have done on the previous lesson. So just take a look at that if you want cut head. So the difference between these two is that OBJ is simpler, but Die comes with a skeleton, which you can pose to make an FBM. But this time, since we are simply making a head model, no, we're not doing FBM. No, the problem is not, I'll just make it very quick. The problem with getting off 279 is not that Foreground doesn't have the time to make a plugin for the newer version. He said he's willing to make it, but he will have to stop updating it for 279. So the question is, do we run 279 or do we run new PES, new Blender? I have given more than a few tries on the new Blender, and it didn't feel at all beginner friendly like this one. Yeah, I mean, you can get pretty close, but you do have to get a few more steps in, and some of them are kind of complex from the point of view of an absolute beginner. So until we get even just a setup which makes new Blender easier to, at least as easy to use, or even just a little harder, that's fine, because it does come with a lot of improvements. Yeah, there are a few people which say modern Blender is easy to use, but I have not yet been convinced otherwise, and I'm the one holding the keys in the 4CC. So if BGL wants to switch, that's fine for me, I don't care. But that's my word, and I will need to be convinced firsthand. And there's also Tomato, which I trust a lot, who has given a lot of reasons for not switching, and he has a lot more experience in new Blender than me, so I can trust him on that. And that's all I'm going to say right now. If you want to talk more about that after the stream. Last time we spent like 15 minutes on this, I think, or maybe not so much, but it felt like a lot. That said, back to the model. I'm going to grab this OBJ and copy in the paths, and then you go to File, Import, and here you got a lot of different things you can import. You got Die, which was the other one. 3DS is very popular too. FBX is popular. OBJ is extremely popular. And Miku Miku Dance model. If you want to convert an MMD, we'll try that too later. You use this one. SPS, some people use that. There's MDL, but we usually use this instead. It's simpler. Source Engine. If you want to import stuff from Team Fortress, you can use this. And that's it. There's also PES Model, which is also here. It's small and it's more practical. Okay, so we get the OBJ. Tack. Let me paste this here. And OBJ is here. It weirdly gives me MTL too. So here we go. This is the one I had converted from the PS2 game. It was here inside FPK. Now, converting models to a format which Blender can read is not covered by any of these tutorials. It is something you have to look for on the internet. You will probably find instructions on syntax, but since almost every game, every game engine has a different method, I will go for years if I had to cover each one, and many of them I don't even know. So just convert it to something PES can read, because these are the formats it can read. Then open it here, and then you get the model. Holy shit, that's the model. Now you click on something and it's on path, right? I wish. But first things first. Since we are only making a head model here, we can just delete everything else. Yeah, depositing to a domination. Let me have some water. Yeah, something I need to remember later. About that Blender shortcuts page. Okay, no, never mind. It's good. Okay. All those meshes test. I mean, if you look at an MMD, there are even more usually. And now something I have probably shown you on the previous tutorials, but you can change the role of every panel. I usually change this one to an liner when working on a lot of meshes, and then change it back to the image editor later. So an easy way to see what mesh is each mesh you're clicking is to switch to wireframe view, because it shows it very quickly. Now you don't need to go clicking each of them and then deleting them separately. You just use, let me do the keys, there we go, N. You can do B for both selection, select a few, and then if none of them are here in the head, you can delete this. But since we have a few here, I need those. I'm gonna need those later, because you need to keep the head and the neck. We will see why later. So something I can do here is use again B, but use the middle button to deselect this one, which was part of another mesh, and then continue. Okay. So you can just select everything, actually, everything below the neck, and then everything above the neck, do a middle click selection to avoid deleting it. Oh, I deselected too much, but you can do it by stages. So now we can delete this with ads and click. This one I can delete. This one, I don't delete, and this one I don't delete either. Okay. Now we are getting there. We're pretty close. Several meshes for the hair, yeah. Buzzing far. There. So how do we get rid of these things here? Well, by now you should know that meshes can only be edited at the mesh level. Now, right now we are at the object level. We need to get deeper. By pressing Tab to enter edit mode, now we can delete specific parts. So I deselect everything with A. And I press cap locks by mistake. Then B here, B here. Okay, that's fine. We delete. Now, as you can see, if I undo, deleting these things here actually deleted more than what you might think it will delete. If you actually want to keep this part here, you have to press Y first to split, and that will generate additional vertices and edges. So if I undo and move, you see he's grooving. But because these points here are single vertices and single edges, if you press Y, you see it stops selecting, it stops saying, oh, look at this. These vertices are also components of these edges. Because you have created additional edges and face and vertices. So now you see they are separate. You can just select faces instead when deleting. That something you can do, but I don't know. I found that sometimes it will delete the face inside while keeping the edges intact. And let me show you a sample. Let's see. So if I switch to, okay, for example, I want to delete this, but only this and not the rest. And so let's delete face. Okay, I guess that works. Deleting. You mean dissolve face? No. Only edges. Only faces. Yeah. Well, in this case, if you do faces or only faces, it's the same. But let's try this. If you do faces, it's the same in this case. Oh well. Okay, so again, if you want to delete and keep this part here, you can either split and then delete the vertices and edges like usual, or avoid the splitting and delete faces. Now let's delete the part below. Okay, we can keep this. Now for the other part, is we see the earrings are there. Give me a second. Okay. And the buckles. So we enter edit mode again. We select each and each. Always with B is the easiest way to select. Or, I mean, I can show you another ways to select, which I have probably covered. Will this video series be available on YouTube? If you, that means you haven't watched the other two probably. They're all on YouTube and they're staying there, yeah. They're part of a playlist I'm keeping. There's no need to keep this just for people who are here right now. And okay, so I was saying, if you hold Control and hold right click, you can lasso select. And that's not bad. The problem is that if you happen to do this, you're fucked. But if you do this, a bit, it's sometimes better, sometimes worse. For things like these ones, which are very separate, you can just do bot select and then add and delete. Select linked is also a nice option for removing parts depending on the mesh structure. Yeah, I think I talked about this last time, but if you click just one vertex or face or edge, just one, and press Ctrl L, it will do select linked all. So it will select everything that's not merged to the rest. This is what we can call a submesh, and I'm not sure I've said this before. So this submesh, this is another submesh and stuff like that. But yeah, in this case, since they are split, let's just select everything and delete. Okay, now we have let's see, yeah, okay, I was checking for repeated meshes because sometimes these models come with, for example, duplicate faces and each of them is for a different expression, but this one is pretty clean. That's it. Now, no, C, there we go. A. Since we have a decent amount of meshes, not too many, I can switch back to the UV image editor and keep these ones here. Now, Let me check something. Okay, if you enter edit mode, you see that in this special case of a video game model, the UVs are outside. Let's move them inside. Looks like the... okay, never mind, I made a mistake probably. Okay, so reminder, because I've said this, after pressing G to move the UVs, if you want to be very accurate with your placement, just hold Ctrl and it will stick to the eighths of a field. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's 16ths. Okay. 16ths here. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, and 16ths here too. And by keeping Ctrl hold and then moving here and clicking, you're sure that the movement was absolutely accurate. So if you undo and then redo, it will look exactly the same. Oh, he overslept. Oh well, you can watch later. So I was saying, let's go through each mesh and move it so it stays here. Let's go through this. I don't know if I told you this, but by clicking meshes here, you select them. But if you click on the triangle here, you enter edit mode on each of them. That's a pretty nice shortcut. So you don't need to switch enter edit mode, switch to another enter edit mode. Fuck, where did it go? You want to cancel, right click. I think this one goes here. If you're not sure if it goes here or not, you can again check the data here at the bottom, which tells you how much you've translated along the S and Y coordinates, which are the U and B coordinates. And if it says 1, it means you've done an entire translation along a whole texture, let's say, and so it's fine. For such cases, I'll go G, move to the 8, it's a Y, yeah? Then use the numpad, yeah. That's another good way. You can use G and instead of moving, you press for example 1, but with 1 it will always do it along S. If you need it along Y, you press Y, either before or after pressing 1. For some reason it says 0009. Let me check. Here is 0000. If I do G, Y, 1, sorry, Y. Ah, now it's 0. What the fuck? Huh. No idea. Enter. Mystery, Blender mysteries. Okay, let's keep on. Okay, this one is on the same texture. Looks like. Ah, yeah, because it's a hair texture. It goes here. Yeah, I find it quicker to just translate by hand, actually. When I already know where I want to go, of course. Select. I've done this one already. This one's fine. Last one. Earrings. The whole texture just for the earrings. Okay. Now, since we have seen... God, I love having a numpad. Well, on Blender, you can just type it... Oh. No, never mind. You can type it either on the numpad or the number row. It's the same. But yeah, numpad is usually more practical. Now, since we have seen that these three are on the same texture, we can afford to merge them. By clicking one, shift click the other, and shift click the other, and then Ctrl J after moving the mouse here. That's very important. And now they are joined in a single mesh, which uses a single texture. And this one also goes into the texture, so we can measure it with this. This one's here, and this one's here, and this one's here. So we now have only 5 textures. It's pretty good. We can press Shift L to select all objects with the same material. That's true, but... yeah, I think they do have the same material. Let me check. Let's undo. Okay, in this case, not always. When dealing with MMBs, that doesn't always work because they usually have different materials. But in this case here, these 3, which is 4, which use the same texture, have the same material. So you can press Shift L. Select linked material. So it does select all the models at once, all the meshes. That's good. And then you join. And then this one with the L material. No, this one. Okay, no, not this one. Okay, no, there were no more to merge. Never mind. Okay, we got 5. So now there are 2 ways to deal with the fact they use different materials. I will explain both of them, but I'll first go with the classic method, which is probably easier for a beginner because there's more work to do, but it's simpler work. There's something here. To ESL to understand shakes, but I am in ESL too. Is that the issue? Oh well. I do try to be as clear as possible, but another issue that I'm kinda tired. I haven't slept much lately, so my pronunciation of words does decline a little. Sorry for that. But again, if there's something you don't understand, if I say something you don't understand, feel free to ask on chat or on the CCG, wherever. I can understand you perfectly. Yeah, you're an RG like me. That's probably the case. But yeah. That said, first method. Let's grab the textures, which are this one, and I think this one. Yeah, this upscales I made with Waifu 2Ets. You remember that? Years ago. So yeah, I need these 5 here. Let's copy them to a folder. For now, just a random folder. Temp, fuck it. Clown to clown communication. Yeah, let's see. I made this. I was checking the December 2016. This file is almost 10. No, it's almost 10 years old. So, these are the files. Yeah, it actually works pretty well. Look at this. Look at this, man. So, let me have these 2 side by side. This, in case someone is wondering, is quick look. I can just click on a file, press space, the spacebar, and it will just preview it. And I can press left, right, and very nice. Even OVJs. And I? No, not supported. So, that's it. I want to... it doesn't go above 300. Fuck it. Let me just open them in Paint.net. Okay, fuck, why is that like this? Man. The problem is that I made my second monitor, which is 1080p. I have switched it to main monitor, and now I'm using my main monitor, which is 4K, a secondary monitor, so that notifications won't pop up here. And all the programs are spazzing out because of that. Anyway. Fuck, what? How do I do that again? Never mind. What? To sync them. 400. It's a different file. Fuck. Why? Because I arranged a few things, I guess. Wait. No, I have no idea. They're different. Is that because one is from PS2 and the other from PSP? Oh, what? Anyway, there's a part which does coincide almost. For example, this. Look at this. Look at this. Holy shit. I have scaled it like, yeah, twice with waifu sweats. Yeah, the results are great. They look like the original texture. Okay. Okay, that said, we have to grab the textures. And actually, let me make sure this is the right one. No, this is not the right one. I have to grab the smaller one. Okay. And indeed, we have put them here. Okay. Open image. Now, what we do is a collage. So we grab one texture. We upscale it. No, we give it more space actually. Let's see, 128, 128, 128, they are 128. But we have 5, so we need a lot of space. Let's do image canvas size. In this case, let's go to 512 per 512. Just to make things easier. Later I'll tell you why that's not the best idea, but we'll get to that later. Well, without knowing Blender that much, some of the terms of lingo go over my head and I lose focus. The thing is, if I have covered them on the previous 2 tutorials, I do recommend watching those. If it's something I have not covered, feel free to ask me, because the point here is to learn about everything. I don't want to just be critical. So now I'm making the collage by putting things here. I can even use the space. Okay, as we see here actually, well, in this very case, these two textures are more or less the same thing. So, well, for now, let's just use them as they are. Later, I'm gonna optimize this a little. So now I save this to another file. So, build. And just PNG for now. We're working on it. Later, we will have to convert it to DDS, which I have covered. But those are the texture format. It is the texture format best uses, and most games for that matter. Does Paint.net have an align distribute action for object layers? That would be great. It's something that people should make into a plugin. Everything here with a puzzle piece is a plugin, for example. But I don't think there is one. But there's a certain tool we can use for that later. For now, I'm doing it manually, just so you know what's happening. Later, I will look for that tool. I cannot even remember how it's called. I should put it on the wiki page, on the tools wiki page for people to use, which does style everything automatically. Okay, now that we have put it there, we can now grab each mesh, do open, and go to that folder there, and open this texture here. Now, the chain with Smug Smile seems 1 pixel too high. Really? Yeah. Or you mean here maybe? The fact that it's like this, yeah. But there's something we can do about that. But you see there? Ah, okay, this one is a little lower actually, not higher. It's as if these were a zoom-in version of this. Maybe we should keep them separate. Anyway, I was saying, we grab the first mesh, edit mode. We open that texture there with this one first, but next time we can use this, which keeps a list of all the textures you've loaded. Use this one here, the same. Now, what we see is, even so, the texture we put in here, this one, is the same size as here, 128, and here is 128. It didn't change. You see the UVs are much larger. Why is that? That is because UVs don't care about texture sizes. They only care about the 0, 1 coordinates and 0, 1 coordinates. So this one covers from half to the end. After you change the texture, they still cover from half to end, even so the texture is larger. That's why if you grab I did cover this, but if you grab a texture and resize it to make it twice as big, you don't need to edit the UVs because they still fit in perfectly. On the other hand, if you make a larger texture to put your stuff in, you will have to downscale your UVs. In this case, you see they need to be a quarter as larger. So you go here and make it 0.25. And yeah, the easier way is to type 0.25 and then press enter. Otherwise, if you prefer using the mouse like me, you can use Control. The problem is that, as you see on the bottom, it scales by tenths. So there's no 25. So you're forced to do 0.5 and then again 0.5 to get 0.25. So what I usually do is, if it's just half, I do it by hand. If it's 0.25 or smaller, I do it with the numpad. Ah, right, I have forgotten about this, but we can also do S slash, which divides, and 4. You see at the bottom it says 1/4. There's a pipe there for some reason, and says equals 0.24. That's pretty nice. Hence, when going, for example, to 8s, because you will have to type S 0.1.5 to get an 8. Instead, S/8, it's easier. Okay. That said, then you press G, not here, you press G here, and move it here. Control here does the job perfectly. Okay, now we have moved it into the unified texture. Next mesh is this. Again, we click here, open GIL. Very important to make sure everything's selected, because if something is not selected, let's see what happens. If only this part is selected, after the half, there we go. And you switch the texture, you see that this part that you had selected went into the other texture. You can see it on the other panel, on the 3D panel. The other part didn't go, and that's the case even if you select everything. You see that half the mesh is in one texture, half is in the other texture. That's kind of weird, but that's because you're assigning each vertex, each UV to a different image. You can do that. But that only works on Blender, by the way. When it's on PES, it doesn't care about that. Anyway, the point is that you have to select everything and then switch. So that the texture will switch and the whole mesh will switch in the Blender view, which is what we're working with. Now we can downscale this again, /4, put it on the equivalent texture, and keep going. Back as /4, and then we move it. Wait, this one doesn't work. Look at how smack he is. There's an issue here. What's the issue? Let's undo. The issue is that this texture here is only half of a part we were trying to put it on. It's the top half of the top rightmost distance of the texture. So let's go into that again. And so the main thing to note here is that the aspect ratio has switched. This was 2/1 or 10/5 or 16/8 if you prefer. But when you switch to that other texture, it's still covering everything. So the UVs are fine, but you want to put it, you're trying to put it here instead of here. So how do you do that? Well, downscaling again, but this time just on the Y coordinate. And since it's a pain having put it here and having it pivot over here, you see like this. Well, you know, you only have to scale it by half, but let's try to put it. My mouth is up here. Something else you can do, but it's actually not the best way. But if you switch the pivot to individual origin, you can now scale it here. So if you scale by Y, you can scale it by over 2 and then move it here. The problem is that now you have lost the alignment. So never mind. This is supposed to come a little higher here. So it is better to just keep the pivot on the 2D cursor. Yeah, you can move the 2D cursor, but for example, you can move it here and you can do it by right clicking. Now, if you do this, it will go here. And if we want to put it here perfectly, you can press N to get the end panel. And it says cursor location. Oh, check him. I did click pretty much perfectly, but no, it's actually a little off. So I want it perfectly. So I click here and the actual result was this. 1. Tack, good. And then 1 here. After doing this, you can now scale here along X, no, along Y, and it will do it perfectly. Ah, that's the pixel you were talking about. I'll take care of that in a bit. And do, yeah, Y and /2 divided by 2. Okay, but really, you don't need to take care of putting the cursor there. You can keep it on 0, 0. And don't worry about this. Just do Y/2 and then you just move it again. It's no big deal. So yeah, you just do that. So let me check here. Yeah, it says selection top left 63. There we go, 64. And we save. Now, when you edit a texture, you will see that here you still got the old one. Why is that? When you open a texture in Blender, Blender will actually load a copy. Will actually create an internal copy, which then, if you want, you can save this image to another file. It's a file that's inside Blender. If you want to propagate your change to Blender, you have to do image reload or Alt R. So I do that, Alt R, and that's refreshed. If you use that thing that some tutorial creators have that show below your cursor the keys you're pressing. I mean, I do have it here. If I press N, you see here. It is a little small, I know, but you should be able to see it. Solve it. And it also shows the clicks, even so it's again very small. Something I could use is... no, not this. Here. Oh my god, this is also showing like this? Okay. This is Power Toys. One of the many toys is got. Is the one that shows where you're clicking. Mouse highlighter. I have it enabled and there. Windows up. No, Windows Shift H. That's the key to activate it nowadays. Holy fuck. This thing here, Power Toys, is pretty good. It's a tool made by guys at Microsoft. A few guys with a brain, actually. But they put a lot of things here which you might need or not need. So you end up with a lot of different shortcuts for each thing. Anyway, Windows Shift H. Now if I click, simple click, right click. There we go. If it were orange, it would be MasterCard. Alright. So, yeah, it works. You have to look here every time. Yeah, I wish it could be made larger as well. Smaller size, but you can load PSD files as image textures. Ah, I didn't know that. Interesting. Okay. You need to work on something more complex with exporting PNG or DTS files every time you change something. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so next up. This has got the same issue as the one before. So something you can do actually is, first things first, scale it by Y. By 2. Along Y by 2. I have no mouse and I must say shoe. And then scale it by 4. Not here. Now truly, I have no mouse and I must shoe. But now he's smug again. And last one. This one, when I selected it on edit mode, you see it didn't even change texture. It changes when you select everything. Then switch to GIL. Okay, so it has finished, but we still got 40 minutes. I will be stopping kind of soon, so I will try to finish this head first. Okay, after doing this, again S/4 and put it here where it belongs. Okay, now everything is set. As you see now, we did have 5 textures, but we are taking 4 squares, so we don't need to keep all this empty space. We can grab these 2. Fuck, I cannot see anything with the yellow dot. There we go. And move them below. And now we can select up to here, which is 250 seats, and crop. But now it's a smaller texture, so we have to move everything again? Not really. Let's do something first. First, since everything is using the same mesh, I can now mesh them into a single mesh. So since everything is using the same texture mesh. Now I have combined them with Ctrl J. We got everything. And here is everything. So now I can save this and reload it here. And you say everything's fucked. More or less. This time the texture is smaller, which means the UVs must be larger. So I'm gonna scale them by 2. Now I can place it down, and you see that most of it matches already, half of it. So we can deselect, both select here, okay, and moves only these 2, these 3 actually. And there we go. Now we got a very clean texture, a clean model. This one is almost ready for PES. Let's do one final step of the initial preparation, which is getting rid of this hole, this ugly hole, because since his head is gonna move completely, I'm going for the basics here. It's gonna move all with the same motion, let's say. His hole will move backwards, and you will actually his neck will move backwards, and you will see the hole. So what we do is I usually first align with number 3 from a side, and then enter edit mode. Then select everything, select this, and I usually use lasso. And then what I do is scale to 0. Why? Because then we can, well, that's an easy way to cover the hole, of course, but it looks ugly. What we do next is move it here. And then I'm gonna do a tech move, which is Ctrl plus. With Ctrl plus is select more. You can do plus, minus. Sorry. If you do plus, minus. You select more and less. But it goes along selected stuff. And when you get to the end, it's a bit rough. For example, here, plus, minus. Here it works fine. Anyway. Here we only need to select this row here. And then I do this. I scale it down, but not by 0, just by a half, let's say, more or less, by going by eye. And then I move it here, move it a little more. There we go. Now this is decent. Yeah, it looks a little dark, but it should be fine on PES. And this part usually doesn't come out. Okay, now we got a head. But hold on. Alright, now the most annoying part of the process, getting a template. I never know where to go grab them because I have a fuck ton of templates. Models, templates, preflots. So let's see, base head, this should be fine. I think. It's probably very old, but it should be fine. Or actually, let me check the wiki, see what's in there. Thanks, Cloudflare. Okay, so take exporter, since we have that now. Aesthetics template. Yeah, when in doubt, an existing head model, possibly as simple as possible, will do fine. Okay, basic head. Let's try. Okay, I need to set it so that clicking on the pictures will give you the link, so you don't have to click down here. I keep forgetting to do that. Yeah, but let's assume you don't know right from left. Yeah, start download. Everyone in the future watching this tutorial will be reminded of PMG winning a Barbie. Yeah. Not here. That's another. No, desktop here. So basic head. I'm afraid you saw my Era Games collection. Oh no. Basic head. No, here. Here. So we grab prefix. And here's the folder. So we copy to the spot, which is not longer here, it's here. Keeping the spot inside the compiler is a decent move. It allows you to compile right after editing something. Now I'm gonna open a duplicate with Ctrl N and go to my temp folder. Okay. But now I need a DDS, so I'm gonna save this one, which works fine. And that's why I didn't save it as DDS at first, because you need to make sure it's perfect first. Now, yes. Like this. Format, we have gone through this. This ST is fine in almost every case. Keep mip maps on. Font is fine, or whatever else. Okay. Now we get build.dds and we copy it immediately here. And we give it a folder name. Okay, so we have gone through this. This is slightly old folder. I mean, it's not. It can be improved a little, let's say, this template folder, because nowadays you don't need a face XML, so I'm gonna delete it. Nor you need a hair high model, nor it's MTL. So, well, actually, let me check what's inside. So now we keep this and we. Okay, you're joking. Bilinear is the worst thing you could use. Now we open a new Blender window, keeping this one open. And you do that by shift clicking. It didn't work. You can also do that by right clicking and clicking here. It used to work, shift click, maybe control click, no? Alt click, no. Fuck. So shift click used to spawn another. For example, here, if I shift click, yeah, you see that it spawns another notepad window. Blender is allergic to that for some reason. Middle click, no, because middle click is the same as shift clicking. I'm gonna close this one too. Once in a while, while working with aesthetics, you will look at the taskbar and you will see 20 things open at the same time. And then it's time to clean. Just run .blender@ in the terminal. Yeah, very simple. Okay, so we got a folder and we got model files. We have gone through this. You have to here you paste here and then you open one, and as you see the face.high one. Where's everyone? There we go. It is better to click it first so it acts as the pivot for the camera. The face.phi model is usually used for the neck. At least it used to be used for that, but in this tutorial we're gonna put the head model too there. We import the hair too, and as you see, the hair used to be used for storing the actual head. So you put your stuff here, you merge it to this mesh, you delete this face here, and you're done. You see we got several meshes. Let me check something. Now, why did people used to do that? Because with the older Blender plugin, when pasting a model and joining it to this last mesh, which was called Hair 2, you didn't need to do any weight painting. But nowadays you need to do weight painting in any case. What's this? Oh, this one. So there's no need to use the hair model at all. So I'm just gonna keep it so we get a reference of the size for now, and then I'm gonna delete it. And here I'm gonna delete it already. Even this texture, hair Pascal, is not needed. Okay. Maybe we should use it. Let me check here. 1 second. Yeah, actually, I change idea. Let's use it just so you don't have to edit the MTL right now. So we will use this mesh. Okay. Now, after importing both, you just go to the other tab. Do Ctrl C to copy, and it says copied. You go to the other Blender tab, and this is still open. Again, some resources. Okay, you go to the other Blender and paste. Okay. Now you see stuff is a little bit misaligned. So, it is still fine. Will PES understand that this is the head? No, it won't. You need to align your sheet to the PES reference, because that's where the skeleton is. So you do 3 to be able to have a reference. Click G to move. No, it doesn't need to be perfect. Just as long as it's there, it's fine. And then, since this is an quote-quote anime head, it will feel a little bit tiny. So we actually scale it a little, but right now it's scaling it along the pivot. I do switch to, no, it's scaling along this, which is the origin of that model. So if you want an easier way, just switch to edit mode, select everything, and now you see here, this circle means that the pivot right now is the center gravity of the model. So you can scale it, let's say by 0.1, scale by 1.3 for example. Click and then move it. This one doesn't have the screencast keys, so there we go. So again, you press S to scale, hold Ctrl, click after hitting 1.3, G to move, and there we go. Make the anime head bigger. And he got ninja'd. Okay, now we switch to this. Okay, it looks fine-ish, more or less. We will go the easier way for now. Okay, maybe I need to move it a little lower so it covers the neck a little. Okay. Now, this mesh here, which is the nose, this one here, we need to enter edit mode and press G to move it to a side. That will come in handy later. There are other ways to do this, but this is the classic way. Now we switch back here, and now we click this one. We shift click this one, so both are selected. You see from the blue is here. The blue and yellow means this one is selected, but this is the main mesh selected. The last mesh selected is the main mesh. And then you do Ctrl J, so the both are joined. The first one was joined to the second. This means that the mesh which we made here, 002 Harry 1, is now included inside mesh seats. So it gains all of the properties from it. Yeah, that's another easier way when you're used to it, but I will get to that later. The object moving thing. Okay, and then you do again edit, select this part here and you delete it. So now you're left with only your mesh. Except now it's got the properties of the thingy it has replaced. Which means it got the material. Thanks to that material, now it uses this texture here. So we can take this name here, delete it and paste it here. And now we will use this name. And we're almost set. We need one final step. Final step is weight painting. Because if you spot this like as it is right now, with this head having no weight painting, as I've shown right now by switching to weight paint, or you can do it with Ctrl Tab, it's all black. There's no weight paint anywhere. And it will do something that's called collapsing into this dot here, the origin of the player. So by weight painting it, you're anchoring it to the real world, let's say. But it's not as hard as it might seem. Let me explain it. I may need to do some explanation. I was trying to reference the DJ Henry video, but I cannot even remember it now. Anyway, we need to switch to weight painting mode, and then we paint it. First, we need to select which, on this tab here, data, which vertex group to paint it to. There's only one here, so there's not much of a choice. Each vertex group corresponds to a bone in the skeleton, so you can also call them bones, even so they're not bones. So this is the head bone. When you paint something here, you painted it to the head bone, let's say. So you just drag and paint it here. You see that it shows you different colors for the strength of the paint on each of these vertices. So you can do like this. You can also zoom out and it's even quicker. And now everything's painted. I will show you a slightly more advanced way, but which is much quicker, and it assures you that everything's painted. But because if you do it manually, there's a chance that you might have left some part which you didn't notice here, for example, and then the pixel will collapse into the origin lightly, depending on how much it was painted. Well, you see. Anyway, let's undo. If you enable this button here, vertex selection masking, sounds like a mouthful, but it simply means that when you enable it and try to paint, nothing will happen. Why? Because only the selected vertices will be paintable, let's say. It's a mask. So for example, if you do B and select half of it, now you can paint this part here. And if you go into edit mode with tab, you see that it corresponds to the stuff you have selected in edit mode. You see? If you select everything, look, everything's there. So, why do we come here even so it's more complex? Because when you're here and you have selected everything, you can do Shift K, tack, and it will paint everything to the same color. What color? Well, it depends on if you press T to show this, the weight stated here. So if you want to paint something to, for example, half, then you do Shift K and now it's painted to green, which is half. So you don't need to know this actually. You can just leave it at the default, which is 1, Shift K, and it's done. And then you exit edit weight paint mode with Ctrl Shift again. Or if you don't remember the shortcuts, you can use this menu. It's a lot of posts. What head do I give Garfield? You need a wrapped tummy head. Okay. And now the model is done. Gore filth. Yeah, that's another way. And I have forgotten about it because I don't usually use it, but let's go through that. You have it unpainted. And you don't even have this clicked. You need to have this clicked. No. Okay, no. You don't need to have this clicked. And you don't even need to enter weight paint mode. Let's assume you just made it and joined it or gave it the material. It's ready, but it needs weight painting. Yeah, you switch to edit mode. And when you switch to edit mode, you get a few more buttons here below the list of groups. You click the one you want or make sure it's selected and then assign. When you do, you need to make sure everything's selected, by the way. It will assign the weight here to the vertices you have selected. Kinda like the Shift K we did earlier. This is even quicker way. And then you exit edit mode and you're done. For simple heads, this is the absolutely quickest way. Okay, that's that. So now you go back to the Scene tab, because that's where the plugins are. And then you export. You can export both, but since you haven't modified the stuff inside the face, you don't need to export this one, but you can also export it, it's the same. It doesn't ruin it. But the most important part is to export the hair. Okay. And now, very, very important. You need to check it, not in PES, in Blender, because you might have forgotten something. For example, you might have forgotten to join it or something. You open another Blender, you do import, and you import the same models you have imported there, just to check that your model is there. And it's there. Then you click it, enter edit mode, and check the UVs are fine. Yeah, they're fine. You can also verify it even more by opening the texture. It looks fine. So it should work. You can also check the weight painting with Ctrl Shift. It's there. It's all good. Okay, now we can check it on PES. So we come back here. We go to the compiler, we compile. It's quick, it's done. And we open PES. But I close the folder with PES. So if you're checking a lot of things again and again, here's a setting that might come in handy for you. Run PES. It's halfway through. If enabled, PES will be started right after packing the CP case. It only works if the PES folder path was set properly, because it will look for the file name PES20 tata, where tata is the PES version, in the PES folder path. We change it to 1, we save, and now when we do the only one, After pressing enter to confirm that everything's fine, it opens PES automatically. Again, canning. I think that boss is supposed to be random. Not here. And there we go. It works. And as you see here, this template had a shadeless face. So it looks, it's the anime shader, let me say. A shadeless material, sorry. And we can see it here. It's using the very old Pony shader. Anyway, it works fine. And that's how you make a head. Next time I'm gonna cover how you make a head from an MMD, which is what many people need. Because MMDs are ubiquitous. They can be found anywhere. As next step, in making UVs. What did I mean by that? I'm not sure. Yeah, I know. Well, we'll cover it actually now. Let's finish with that. And then next time, how to open a Stellium model, which some guy on FuzzyCG asked me to show. And then I'm gonna talk about shading. This time it was just a anticipation and a preview. So we're making UVs. Let's assume you want to make a model from something which does not come with the proper UVs already. And you made a texture for it. This is a little more advanced, by the way. And I don't even know all about it, but okay. If you press U, you get the UV mapping menu, which allows you to remake the UVs. Let's unwrap. Each of them does something different. Unwrap will make a different island for every single sub-mesh in the mesh. So everything that's connected to the other, which will become an island, and everything else will become another island. And this is useful for when you want to, for example, remake the texture with baking, but that's a little more advanced. We'll cover that another day. The one that's very simple to use and very useful is, I press 1 now to align it, is Project from View. When you do that, you get a mesh, a UV map, which corresponds to the mesh as you were seeing it on the 3D panel. So now you can place it here, for example. Maybe resize it a bit, or a bit less. Change the pivot. There we go. And you see, it is very smug again. Okay. Very weird hair now. But can model technology import MMD skeletal maps into Blender? If you mean they're skeletons, it can. They're maps? I've never heard of a skeleton map. Exactly, if you mean that. So, well, I'll look for it so we can try cover it next time or in the future. But yeah. Now, that's not very useful in this case, but It can be useful if you, for example, make a ball. Add the mesh. There we go, a sphere. If you want to make a ball and it doesn't have UVs, you can project from view, for example. Place it here. Near smaller. And now you got the AU ball. You can press T to shade it smooth, but we talk about shading next time. The smuggest ball ever. Alright. We'll see more about making UVs in the future. That was just another preview. I think I'm stopping here. We have gone, wow, an hour and 52. I want to try not going above an hour and a half, because they tend to get a little heavy, otherwise dense or hard to get through. Hard to stay focused, let's say. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that, guys, and I don't know if there's VGLL this weekend. Otherwise, I'm gonna do another stream on Friday. Because it's a little better, because everyone can watch it here on the main channel. Okay, we got 2 weekends until VGLL, and even then it's qualified, so I can just do it anyway. The rebels. Yeah, that's it. Let's finish with this ball. Yeah, if you want, you can. I'm gonna post it now. The playlist for this, not here. Here, let me grab. There it is. 4CC Aesthetics tutorial, I've called it, because it's not just a Blender tutorial actually. Keep that in mind for whenever. And hopefully, if nothing weird happens, next Friday, around the same hour, half an hour of the cap time, or maybe a little more. I usually take a little to prepare, a lot. We have another lesson. So, okay, that's it. Bye.